spent quite a bit of time over the last couple of years really looking at the link between climate change and our inability to agree climate change legislation. So year after year after year we have what's now become almost a charade of the climate change conference talks. And year after year after year, nothing happens. And year after year after year, the science gets harder and more brutal, and the CO2 levels are starting to increase, and the CO2 levels are increasing faster and faster, and the CO2 levels are now increasing what us mathematicians call super exponentially. So we are massively in the danger zone. And in, I think, about 2008, shortly after the IPCC report came out, the Fairford Institute was on down the road. And I'd actually given a talk in this very room about climate change and how dangerous the situation was likely to come. And someone kindly said in the room, said, "What do I think about the Fairford Institute?" And I said, I think it's absolutely outrageous. You know, all these jets and bombers and everything all coming over and doing exactly the opposite of what we need to do on climate change. So I organised a little protest against it, and then the following year I put a spoof website up that said that the Institute was going to shut down because of climate change. The website, basically took their website, put a spoof letter in the middle, and said, "Dear airshow visitors and supporters, it's with great regret that we announce that this will be the last airshow that we'll ever run, because as responsible managers of this event, we can no longer support this event with the severity of climate change," and some various other stabs against Boeing and Airbus and the arms industry as well. And then it highlighted the fact that the IPCC report said by the end of the century, at current progress, all life will be extinct on this planet. That's where we're going. And put down the final thing was, and if you feel you can no longer support this event, we will of course be delighted to offer you a full refund on your ticket. So then took their website, which is now hacked, and stuck it up on another address at www.air22.org, or they were, I put www.air22.com or something. So I then put it up, and absolute all hell broke loose. You know, I was arrested for fraud, facing several years in prison, and this incredible overreaction by the state against this protest really made me think about the linkage between the arms industry, because what I'd done there was gone straight for the arms industry. It's an incredible overreaction. I had various legal cases about to fly, and an arrest for fraud, kept on bail for 18 months. And it really made me think much harder about the linkage between our inability to make climate change agreements and the hold that the military-industrial complex actually has in our society. Because going for the Air-22, you go for the military-industrial complex. And it made me extend the thinking on a little bit more to the decision that we're making in this country with Trident. And one of the big problems that I see now is that once we make the decision to move down the road for Trident, it will become impossible for us to ever make any climate change agreements. And the reason being is that once we make the decision to move down the road for Trident, we need to have such a massive military-industrial complex to build it. We need to have such a huge expanding economy to raise the taxes for it, that the things that we need to do are the antithesis of what we need to do for climate change. Once we sign that first purchase order for Trident, we will never make a climate change agreement. And in that context, Trident becomes a much more dangerous issue than we ever first thought. We normally kind of argue Trident to say we shouldn't do it because it's bad and it might cause a war and kill lots of people. Okay? What this argument is much more powerful. It says Trident will destroy us, not might, because it will stop us making any of the climate change agreements. And this kind of debate that we're moving into now, and one of the big thrusts of the nuclear industry now, is that it provides the fuel for things like Trident. It provides the supply of plutonium, the enriched material, and it provides that industrial base that enables this kind of thing, this kind of fundamental decision that we're moving towards without ever really thinking about it. One final thing just before I sit down. What we are actually working towards just now, what our governments are actually working towards just now, is a strategy whereby the only people surviving on this planet towards the end of the century will be the crews of the Trident submarines, as soon as the captain actually forced it into war. That's the kind of brutality of the game that we're playing at the moment.